Mayor Allen, it is 6:30. Once you do have a quorum of council on camera, you may begin the meeting.
Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, can I have a mover and seconder to call the meeting to order, please? Councillor Cabral, Councillor Ma Chapman, that the regular meeting of the Council of the Township of Springwater of February 2nd, 2022 come to order at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? That is carried. Due to COVID-19, Council is taking the necessary steps to limit in-person meetings. As such, Council and staff are meeting virtually through a Zoom meeting. You can watch the meeting live on the Township's website at www.springwater.ca. You can listen to the meeting from a telephone during the meeting by dialing 647-558-0588 and using the meeting ID 826-5219-4521. If you want to see the live stream after, you can watch the video on the Township's YouTube channel. Council, are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest this evening? Seeing none, I'd like to move into item 3 on the agenda and call upon CAO Jeff Schmidt, Chief Administrative Officer, to present the Staff Service Awards.
Good evening, Mayor Allen, members of council, township staff, and distinguished guests. It's my absolute pleasure to be here this evening to formally recognize a number of township employees who have recently celebrated service milestones with the municipality. As you're aware, one of council's strategic priorities for this term is to enhance our staff recognition program. This is one of the steps that we're taking to do just that. To start us off, in 2021, the following 2 employees celebrated 30 years of service with the township: Joe Moyer and Shelley Mcnabb. As I call out names, I would ask those team members that are in attendance this evening to please turn on your video and give us a wave. Joe Moyer. Joe has been with the...
Sorry.
No problem. Joe Moyer. Joe has been with the township for over 30 years, starting prior to amalgamation. He began shadowing at the Floss Elmville Arena in his early teens. In 1990, Joe began his career at the Floss Elmville Arena, working seasonally as a facility attendant before moving into a full-time recreation position with the village of Elmville. After amalgamation, Joe successfully moved into a truck driver laborer position with the roads department. From there, Joe then moved into an equipment operator laborer position before being promoted in 2018 to a full-time lead hand, where he continues to serve today. Throughout his time with Springwater, Joe has also served 19 years as a volunteer firefighter with Springwater Fire and Emergency Services. Joe highlights his proudest moment with Springwater as working together with one of our former road supervisors to successfully search and locate 2 missing boys, which were the subject of an Amber Alert in November 2010. Congratulations and thank you, Joe, for your exceptional longstanding service, dedication, and loyalty to the Township of Springwater.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. What's the hockey sweater you have in the back behind you there? You're muted, Joe.
There's Matthews, Marner, Gilmore, Clark.
Good stuff.
Oh yeah.
Good stuff. Well, heartfelt congratulations from all of us and council and staff for an incredible length of time with Springwater. You could and can and do tell lots of stories. You know the skeletons, you know the successes, so well done, and keep up the great work. Stay healthy.
Thank you.
Next, we have Shelley Mcnabb. Shelley has been with the township for over 30 years and started prior to amalgamation. Shelley began her career in 1990 with the former township of Vespra as a part-time treasury assistant. Shortly thereafter, in 1991, she moved into the role on a full-time basis. Since then, Shelley has continued to work in the finance department as an accounting assistant, accounts payable coordinator, and in 2018, Shelley was promoted to her current position of procurement and claims administration coordinator. Congratulations to you, Shelley, and thank you for your exceptional longstanding service, dedication, and loyalty to the Township of Springwater.
And thank you, Shelley, for many, many years of smiling face and hard work. When I saw you coming down, I knew I'd made a mistake on something and needed some correction. So thank you for keeping us on the straight and narrow.
You're welcome. Thank you. It's been a pleasure serving the residents of Springwater Township. A very proud employee. And thank you for not recognizing the 30 years of service.
Keep up the good work and stay healthy.
Thank you. Thank everyone.
Thank you.
In 2021, we also had another member of our team who celebrated their 20 years of service with the township, Anita Verstraeten. Anita commenced her employment in 1993, where she worked various contract positions in the Treasury Department with the former Township of Vespra and the Township of Springwater. She began her full-time career with the Township of Springwater in 2001, when she was appointed as the Deputy Treasurer. Anita continues to this day to fulfill the responsibilities of this role. Again, congratulations and thank you, Anita, for your exceptional longstanding service, dedication, and loyalty to the Township of Springwater.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anita, for keeping us quiet, but you're efficient and you know the job gets done and the taxes get collected, or if they're not, then we're right on top of them. So you've done a tremendous job and thank you for being such a loyal employee. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
In addition, I would also like to formally recognize the following employees who have reached milestone years of service with the township in 2021. Celebrating 15 years is Pierre DeRoche. Celebrating 10 years is Jason Blakely. And celebrating 5 years is Steve Blogg, Alex McNeil, Renee Ainsworth, and Brent Ferguson. Not sure, Mr. Mayor, if we have all of those individuals on the call here tonight. Obviously, Clerk Ainsworth.
Well, hopefully they're tuning in, and to all of them, thank you very much for such hard work over the years, and we hope to continue to have you and have many more years of good success, good work, good health. Thank you.
Mayor Allen, while I still have the floor, I also like to take this opportunity to acknowledge and recognize those staff that reached the following service milestones in 2020. Penny Travis celebrated 15 years. Tom McGinnis celebrated 10 years, while Jeff French, Mark Terrion, and Brianna Belcourt celebrated 5 years of service. Congratulations to each of you, and thank you for your exceptional service to the Township of Springwater. Again, Mr. Mayor, I believe we might have one individual on the call. Or maybe
Who
not.
would that be?
I thought maybe Brianna was going to join us, but maybe
Oh,
not.
come on, Brianna, show your face. Let's see. She feels, a lot of those people feel like they worked longer than the years you quoted just because of the double duty and Matt leaves and Pat leaves and night is day and day is night. And so thank you to all of you who might be listening or tuned in for your incredible service.
Mayor Allen, that concludes my presentation for this evening. At this time, I believe CEO Delgado would also like to recognize a few of her employees. With your indulgence, I will pass the mic to Ms. Delgado.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to recognize our library employees for their many years of service. So I'm proud and honored to be a representative of the Springwater Township Public Library Board and recognizing our long-term employees for both 2020 and 2021. Maggie Sparrow joined the library, Vespra Library at the time, in 1990. She had come over from England with her family and her Canadian husband in 1987, started working at Vespra Library in 1990 as a children's programmer. And then after we had the amalgamation, she moved primarily to the Elmville branch. Back then, she wanted to remind me that when we first started out, we had no computers and we actually had to count and alphabetize all the collection and circulation cards by hand at the end of the night. So we've come a long way in her 31 years here. And now she works primarily first on cataloging and then on collection development, patron data entry, and for the last 5 years, primarily on her interlibrary loans. So if you are requesting an item that is not in our own library, Maggie is the one who gets it for you. So congratulations to Maggie, and thank you for your 31 plus years of service.
Thank you very
Unfortunately,
much.
I don't think Maggie or Leslie were able to tune in tonight, but I know some members of the library board and library staff are watching on the live stream. We have another 30-year recognition. Leslie Heuslep has been with the Elmville branch primarily for 30 years. She works on our summer reading programming of all ages for adults and children. She's also very community-minded. She's one of the volunteers at Shareware and helps us with our partner programs with them. She is a creative force behind the library. So if you walk into Elmville branch and see all the beautiful decorations, that is all because of Leslie. And she says, it is a privilege to work at the library. The staff and patrons are awesome, and I love going to work every day. So congratulations to Leslie for 30 years of service and dedication to the residents of Springwater.
Excellent. Thank you.
We also have a couple of other recognitions. Celebrating 15 years in 2021, we have Kathy Cook and Ginger Chang. Kathy is our community librarian. She is the one responsible for fundraising, working with volunteers and adult programming. Ginger primarily does all of our communications. And so our website, our newsletter, our newspaper articles, she's been behind all the video editing that we've done for our virtual programs for the last 2 years. So we are very lucky to have both of them as well. And then we have a 5-year anniversary from 2020. So Linda Pache has been with us for 5 years in 2020, and celebrating 5 years in 2021, Amanda Hodgkinson, who is our new children and youth librarian. And I also came to Springwater Library in 2016, so it would be 5 years last year in 2021 as well. So thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to celebrate our dedicated and wonderful library staff. And here's to many, many more years of service. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO Delgado. We don't see the people in the library as much as we see the staff, obviously, unless we frequent the libraries, which I don't think all of us do quite as often as the admin center or the Zoom calls. So those are impressive years of service and long years of service, and we appreciate it very much. It leads to a very solid library system we have in the township under your direction. So thank you, CEO Delgado.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 4 in the agenda question period. Members of the public are invited to ask questions of council or make comments regarding the items on the agenda if they so wish. The ways of doing that are outlined on the agenda. You can either do that by making a submission to the clerks@springwater.ca by noon on the day of the meeting, or provide your information and request to submit a verbal question at question period to council virtually. Clerk Ainsworth, have we had any submissions received for tonight?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. There have been no submissions for this evening's meeting.
Okay, moving on to item 5, minutes 5.1. Can I have a mover and seconder to get the minutes on the floor, please? Deputy Mayor Coughlin, Councillor Ma Chapman. These are the minutes of council. There are 2 of them, January 19th, 22, and the regular meeting and the special meeting on January 19th. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, the motion is that the minutes of council listed herein be approved as presented. The minutes of the regular meeting of council, Jan 19, 2022, and the special meeting of council, same date. All those in favor? That is carried. Item 5.3 of the minutes of the board, committees and organizations. Mover and seconder to get these on the floor. Councillor Cabral, Councillor Moore. Any questions with respect to these? The motion is that the minutes of council listed herein, minutes of boards should read, committees and organizations listed herein be approved as presented. The library board meeting, December 14, 2021, and the cultural advisory meeting of December 7th, 2021. All those in favor? That is carried. Next, we're moving on to 6.1 action reports. Mover and seconder to get these on the floor. Councillor Ritchie and Deputy Mayor Coughlin. We have 6.2 through 6.9. Any questions or desire to pull any of these? Councillor Ritchie?
Yes, I'd like to pull 6.2. I'd like to speak to that, please.
6.2, okay. Any others? Okay, seeing none, the motion is that the action reports 6.2 to 6.9, well, 6.3 to 6.9 be received, and that the recommendations contained therein be approved as presented. 6.3, amendment to the accessibility policy. 6.4, increase in Ontario community infrastructure funding. 6.5, temporary borrowing bylaw. 6.6, sole source financial software. 6.7, revision of condition 34, de-Hickling subdivision. 6.8, Vesper Valley Phase 3, reduction of securities. 6.9, Cameron Estates, Snow Valley Highlands wastewater treatment plant expansion. Train number 2, reduction of securities, with the exception of 6.2, Train Avenue West. All those in favor? That is carried. 6.2, Train Avenue West. Mover and seconder to get that on the floor, please. Councillor Cabral, Councillor Ritchie. Go ahead, Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you. And this is to either Jeff or Brett. In regards to the main sewer trunk line that comes up Train Avenue, I'm assuming, but I'm just bringing it up anyways, that we have, it's registered on title, that there's an easement there that we can get access to that. And we don't put anything heavier than a flower bed over top of that easement. So if somebody can assure me of that, I'd feel comfortable. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go to the author of the report, which is Clerk Ainsworth first, please.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I would have to defer to Director Spagnell just through the planning process.
Okay, Director Spagnell, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. So through the planning process and registration process, there would definitely be the need for easements to ensure that the municipality has the ability to go maintain that trunk main. So that will occur as part of the registration process once the developer moves into full registration of the subdivision agreement.
Thank you, Brett.
You're welcome.
Okay, the motion is that the report from the clerk regarding Train Avenue, Councillor Hannah? You're muted.
Yeah, it takes me a minute to get it undone, but thank you. Just a question I have through the staff. I read that report from ATA. I just want to confirm the actual date when they did the value assessment.
Director Spagnell?
Mayor Allen, I would have to refer that over to Clerk Ainsworth.
Yes, Clerk Ainsworth. I'm just looking up on the agenda. It had the appraisal.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. It was dated October 27th, 2021.
Thank you. I saw the date on there. With the way property has been increasing, I just wanted to make sure that was a reasonably current assessment. I saw the date of the report, but I wasn't sure when they made the actual value consideration was made. So thank you. One other question is, if I can, is there at any point in time, given the value, where the sale of township property can happen without it being approved by council?
I'll go to Clerk Ainsworth.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Based on the policies, there are no circumstances where staff have the authority to sell any township land without council approval.
Thank you.
Okay, so that the motion is that the report of the clerk regarding Train Avenue West sale of land and declaration of surplus dated Feb 2, 2022 be received, and that a bylaw declaring the land's surplus and authorizing the sale of be presented for consideration at the February 16, 2022 regular meeting of council. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay. Moving on to item 7 in the agenda, 7.1, information reports. Mover and seconder to get these on the floor, please. Councillor Cabral, Councillor Moore. There are 5 items there. Any questions, comments with respect to these? That the report items listed herein be received as information, 2022 municipal and school board election, and the building services monthly activity report for September, October, November, and December 2021. All those in favor? That is carried. Verbal reports. Any official plan updates or economic development updates, Director Spagnell?
Mayor Allen, I have nothing new to report at this point in time. Thank you.
Okay. 8.3, Midhurst Development Update, General Manager Ramdale.
Good evening, Mayor Allen, Deputy Mayor Coughlin, members of council.
Good evening.
This evening, I'd like to present 2 reports, if you'll permit me. One for Midhurst Development and another one on the Swaley Drain. So I'll begin with thank you. I shall begin with the Midhurst Development. The developer is working on the electrical servicing and hopes to energize the site within the next few weeks. The work on the utility campus is progressing with a focus on the effluent main from the utility campus out towards Wilson Drive. The developer is also working to lower the groundwater levels along Highway 26, and that would enable work to begin along Highway 26. The Ministry of Transportation will not allow daytime work along Highway 26, and so I expect the developer to submit a noise exemption request for our consideration. We will bring that request to council before they begin night works along Highway 26. Moving on to the Swaley Drain. Works began in the middle of January and the major excavation works are complete. The water they've receded and we expect it to drop further as the ice melts later this spring. The contractor began the excavation working outwards towards the open waters and is now retreating backwards towards where they began. And as they retreat, the crews are building turtle nesting and sunning areas. They're placing dead trees to encourage naturalization and osprey resting spots, and installing the monitoring stations that will allow us to measure the water levels in the future. As at the present rate of work, I expect the contractor to be complete by this weekend and to demobilize this weekend as well. That brings me to the end of the Midhurst development update and the Swaley Drain update. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager. Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I just wanted to thank Mahesh. I sent him an email earlier today asking for an update. Might have been yesterday too. Anyways, for an update on the Swaley Drain. And I just want to reach out and say thank you for bringing us up to date. It's been such an important project. It's nice to kind of keep your finger on the pulse. I will welcome all updates as we move forward. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, and through you to Director Ramdale. Will there be communication going out to the benefiting landowners and those who've been involved in the process to let them know of the completion of the project?
General Manager.
Through you, Mayor Allen, to Deputy Mayor Coughlin. Yes, there will be something going out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. County updates. Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. County Council has not sat since our last meeting, so there's no further update at that point. Although for the residents, the cart exchange program continues to carry on. And for members of our council, our regional government service delivery task force has met most recently regarding fire services. And the request of the committee is to have comment approved by council. So I'm through you to either Chief Cabay, or sorry, my apologies, Chief Kirk, or I apologize, or CAO Schmidt. I've caught myself here now. Will we be anticipating comment for council's consideration at our next meeting?
Chief Kirk.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, and through you to Deputy Mayor Coughlin. I won't take that as a slight.
Sorry.
I'm just joking. I will have comment to you for the next council meeting. I've sent the report to for approval, so it will be on the agenda for next council meeting.
Okay, thank you. 8.5 municipal updates. Any municipal updates? Councillor Ma Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I'm just gonna give you an update of the Menacing Minifest. They are having a smaller version than their normal. It is their 50th anniversary of Menacing Minifest, so it will be on Saturday, February the 12th, so next Saturday. They're having a drive-through pancake breakfast. To order, you can order through their Facebook page. Also, they're having a small presentation for the Citizen Youth of the Year outside of the hall, and will be Facebook Live with restrictions in place. And second or third is the BS parade, and hopefully we get more. We have about 6 floats now, and Swampy will be attending. And Renee just sent out an email to all councillors if you would like to either have pancakes or join the parade. Thanks.
Thank you. Good to see that that's being organized. Councillor Hannah.
Thank you, Mayor. I just comments on the hasty track with the clearing case, tree clearing that's taking place and the grubbing. A lot of residents are kind of annoyed that those trees are being removed. And based on the news release by yourself, the mayor, where you're taking most of the credit for it, I was tempted to let you take most of the criticism, but because I advanced the idea of the M&R land being purchased by the township for development of our fire hall, paramedic services, and the recreation facilities that may take place, I felt it was important that I explain my position was at the time that those trees, I was told, eventually are going to have to be harvested anyway, 1, and 2, that if the township didn't buy it, it was a good opportunity that it would probably become a commercial site. So with those things in mind, I don't think we made a mistake. And even though people may be upset about the tree removals, I think it's important that maybe we consider, if my observations are accurate, that the trees would have been harvested eventually. We might want to consider sharing that in the future.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ritchie.
I just want to concur with Councillor Hannah. He's been a stalwart right from the get-go in the second term with then Mayor Bill French in bringing this to light and to where it is now. And I think that should be mentioned in any further correspondence going forward. Councillor Hannah has been wanting this for a long time, and it's starting to realize. So I ask that going forward, that those names be mentioned and not just to a select few. Thank you.
CEO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to make a comment regarding the tree clearing. So members of council and our residents are aware. So through the consultation that we've had up till now, just so you're aware, we have partnered with the Métis Nation, and essentially the trees that are being harvested, we've made a partnership with them, if you will. So those trees will be picked up, if you will, from them and used for their own purposes. So again, just wanted to make sure that that council was aware of that.
Councillor Hannah.
Follow up, Mayor, if you're breaking up, so I'm not sure you
Go ahead. Yeah, I said.
Thank you.
Councillor Hannah, go ahead.
I'd like the CEO, if he can, confirm that in fact, that the information that we received a number of years ago, that those trees eventually would be harvested, if that is accurate or not.
CEO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hannah. I would have to double check, Councillor Hannah. I don't have that information in front of me, and I don't want to speak out of turn. Let me double check, and I'll happy to report back to confirm that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other municipal updates? All right, moving on to notices of motion. 9.1, we have a notice of motion presented by Councillor Moore. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I'll just go ahead and read the motion and do a little explanation after. So the recommendation is that whereas.
And we need to get a seconder as well, Councillor Moore.
Oh,
Deputy Mayor Coughlin, go ahead, Councillor Moore.
thank you. So whereas the township recognizes the time and effort of the volunteers at the Snow Valley Park outdoor rink, I'll just clarify that I'm talking about the Snow Valley Highlands once again. And whereas the volunteers have fundraised $3,000 for the rink tarps independently and used for the 2 outdoor rinks. And whereas the volunteers request a donation from the township for the remaining costs of the tarps in the amount of $1,500 to be given or taken from the tax rate stabilization reserve. So I have talked about this park before. It's the Snow Valley Highlands Park. These tarps need to be replaced approximately every 3 years. They did have some vandalism last year, so these tarps were just 2 years in. And they're a great group. They don't live close to sort of a township park, so they've established this independently. So what I mean is they don't live close to the Grenfell Arena or Phelpston Arena, or even Minising is quite a trek. So they've established this themselves and were able to raise the money. And I think it would be a great idea if we just showed some support for these volunteers, a cost sharing program. We've done it before. And so I'd really like us to show them the support that they deserve.
Thank you. Discussion, Councillor Maude Chapman.
Thank you, Mary Ellen, and thank you, Councillor Moore, for bringing this up. I do support this, and we did talk about this, the Recreation Advisory Committee, where the small little groups like that don't have a CRA, and so it's hard for them to raise the money on their own because they don't have that same community group and a larger scale. So I totally support this decision or this motion.
Thank you. Other comments? Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Marilyn. With this being brought forward, asking, so I'm assuming at this point the tarps have been purchased and are being used?
Councillor Moore, do you know?
I'm sorry, Mayor Allen. You were breaking up, Deputy Mayor. Can you please repeat that?
Yes, my apologies. Is this a request for the tarps, or have the tarps been purchased and are asking to be reimbursed for?
Oh, the tarps have been purchased already and they're already in use.
And they're already in use. And my apologies, I don't see Mayor Allen, but asking for latitude to continue.
Go ahead. Yes, we're having internet challenges, I think. So go ahead, please.
Thank you. With this request being brought forward, and I do understand that there is no CRA active in the area, similar to that of Elmvale, who also have 2 rinks that are operational. With there being 12 rinks across the municipality, the concern that I do have, not in any concern sharing with supporting volunteers, is there a mechanism then where we could allot a certain amount to each rink annually to support these endeavors? Because each of our rinks have different, some have boards, some have roofs, some have lights. They all offer different aspects to our residents. And I would just like to maintain, I think that the steps that this council took, or sorry, previous council took to support the CRAs and create a balance or create some sort of equity across the municipality. The concern I do have with this is that if we support $1,500 towards this for one rink, I think that we should be prepared to do the same for all of our rinks. I don't know if tarps are used maybe through you to Coordinator Dean, if tarps are used at most rinks or how that is supported, because I do know in Elmvale specifically, the volunteer who maintains both of them purchased a snow blower to make it available. So the costs associated with that were borne by the community without a CRA. So I just want to make sure that there is consistency. But through you, Mayor Allen, to Coordinator Dean, if we know if tarps are supplied to all 12 rinks.
Okay, Coordinator Dean, I'm looking for are you here, or General Manager Ramdeo? I'm not sure. Is Coordinator Dean here?
Mayor Allen, I do not see her on the call.
Yep. Go ahead then, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Allen, to Deputy Mayor Coughlin. Deputy Mayor Coughlin, I will have to get back to you on that particular one. I'm not 100% positive. My understanding is no, but I need to confirm that we do not provide it to the other rinks. I'll need to confirm.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hannah?
Thank you, Mayor. And just follow up to the deputy's comments. Midhurst, they purchased a snow blower for the pavilion, and it was 100% paid for by the volunteers from the community hall. But bottom line being is, I think that every project that comes forward, if it's fundraised by the community, it should come before council and to be considered and approved. I believe that's the policy we've had in the past. The residents or the volunteers do their portion and we do the other, or we approve the other half. I like that policy and I think it should be maintained.
Councillor Cabral?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I guess just a couple of comments, really. I guess one of the comments was, maybe it hasn't been prepared yet, but I think when we were discussing something similar to this not that long ago, I believe staff were going to look into the assessment of the current facilities that we had in place as far as outdoor recreational facilities were concerned. So I don't know whether or not that plays into this. It might be worthwhile to know whether or not that's ongoing or going to be coming before council. That would be number one. And number two, I guess my next question would be is, I'm hearing from the deputy, I believe Deputy Mayor Coughlin said there was 12 rinks. And I'm just wondering how many rinks are actually rinks that the township has implemented and put into place, and how many rinks do we have where volunteer organizations have just taken it upon themselves to put rinks into place?
General Manager Ramdale?
Yes, Mayor Allen. Two questions there. Councillor Cabral, through you, Mayor Allen, to Councillor Cabral. Councillor Cabral, when you mentioned recreation facilities, were you speaking of the facilities assessments that are ongoing right now?
I just recall there was a presentation made regarding basketball courts, now, and I think rink lights came up also. So I'm just kind of curious to know whether or not that is going to be part and partial to that particular review, to look at where our facilities are, what facilities are in place, and how we might improve those, and how it might be more equitable. Because if we have a situation where we have groups that are putting in rinks and then kind of doing it on their own, I guess, for lack of a better term, through volunteerism, which is wonderful, I guess, for the most part. But if it comes back and then township starts to incur costs, there's really no way for us to control that, because we're not really controlling where these facilities are being opened up to the volunteers to create recreational space.
Okay. I see.
General Manager?
I see. Thank you, Mayor Allen. Through you, Mayor Allen, to Councillor Cabral. I see CEO Schmidt on the call, and I'll give him an opportunity just now. There are two things we're looking at. We're looking at the Recreation Master Plan, which will look at all of those where our recreation facilities, rinks likewise, should be, and will commence this year. Part of that will be that consideration. The second thing that we are looking at, which we'll bring to council, is an outdoor rink policy, which will give some guidance on the usage and how we will go forward with them. And that we will bring to council within the next few council meetings. So I hope that answers, and I'll pass it off to CEO Schmidt if he wishes to add anything.
CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, General Manager Ramdale mentioned the outdoor rink policy, which was what I was going to mention. So I think we're covered there.
Okay. Other questions, comments? All right. So the motion is that staff be directed to prepare a report. Sorry. Whereas the township recognize the time and effort of the volunteers at Snow Valley Park rinks, and whereas volunteers have fundraised $3,000 for the rink tarps used for 2 outdoor rinks, and whereas volunteers request donation from the township for the remaining costs of the tarps, in the amount of approximately $1,500 from the tax rate stabilization reserve. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you.
Thank you,
Next we
Council.
have Next, we have 9.2, which is a motion regarding the signalized pedestrian crossings and school crossing guards. Councillor Cabral is the mover. Do we have a seconder for this to get it on the floor? Councillor Ritchie, go ahead, Councillor Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I would suspect some councillors may be aware, but the crossing guard that used to be installed in Elmvale on County Road 27, Young Street South, at Howden there, which is utilized quite heavily. And since that time, actually, there have been other crossings on Queen Street of a similar nature, one in front of the library and one on Queen Street East, just up from Simcoe Street, to facilitate children getting to and from school. In a nutshell, when there was some issues with the crossing guard and some difficulties, I guess council of the day at that time opted to put in a signalized intersection to assist children in crossing to and from school, as well as other people outside of school hours. When that happened, the school crossing guard was discontinued. And then since that time, we've also looked at Hillsdale, which had some difficulties with crossing on 93 there at Albert. And now that the lights are in place, one of the questions was, what are we going to do with respect to the school crossing guard? Because past practice seems to have been that once the lights were operational, the school crossing guard was discontinued. So what I would like to do, and hopefully council will support it, is to try and determine if we're using school crossing guards, where in fact they are warranted and where in fact they should be installed. When you do a bit of a comparison, you've got over on George Johnson and Minising, it's a major thoroughfare too, and children are crossing from one side to the other to attend the local school there. You also have a number of children crossing on Finley Mills at Belmont, excuse me. And they have a set of lights there as well that, to be quite frank with you, it's busy during school hours when people are heading to work and coming home from work, that could also probably benefit from the use of the school crossing guard. And then, as I say, we can step back into Elmvale, and then we have to question ourselves, is it because the residents of Elmvale have been silent on the matter, or is it because the residents of Elmvale really didn't want to push the button too much in order to keep the school crossing guard installed there? So I think we need to look at the township in a broader fashion. There may be other locations I'm not aware of that have a signalized intersection for school children to utilize to get to school that may also warrant an adult crossing guard at that location. So that is the intent of my motion, and that's why I've presented it.
Questions, council? Discussion? Councillor Ma Chapman?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Just a question, just to refresh my memory. Is Hillsdale the only one that we actually have a person standing there, or do we have one in Elmville too, or just Hillsdale?
I know Hillsdale, yes. I don't think there is one in C.O. Schmidt. So Hillsdale is the only place at present. Councillor Hannah?
Thank you, Mayor. And I should add, seeing it was brought up about Finley Mill and Belmont, I get a lot of complaints about heavy truck traffic that seems to increase on Finley Mill. Traffic running that light there at that corner where the traffic light is at Belmont. So if we're going to set a standard, I think that's one intersection that has to be included as well. The other thing I think we have to be aware of is liability. If we're setting a precedent of one location, but because we think it's necessary, but we consider other places not to be necessary, I would suggest there's probably an opportunity for some liability concerns on our part.
Okay. All right, then, the motion reads that staff be directed to prepare a report outlining all signalized pedestrian school crossings within the township, including those without a crossing guard, and that the report include draft township-wide policy for consideration outlining key criteria and required metrics where a pedestrian school crossing would require a crossing guard. All those in favor? That is carried. Next, we have the big one on joint and several liability, presented by Deputy Mayor Coughlin. Is there a seconder to this motion? Councillor Ma Chapman. Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Marilyn. And if you would like to read it, I have no problem allowing you that opportunity. It's quite long, and thank you to staff for the assistance in writing this. But the recommendation reads, whereas municipal governments provide essential services to the residents and businesses of their communities, and whereas the ability to provide those services is negatively impacted by the exponentially rising insurance costs, and whereas one driver of rising insurance costs is the legal principle of joint and several liability, which assigns disproportionate liability to municipalities for an incident relative to their responsibility for it. And whereas the Government of Ontario has the authority and responsibility for the legal framework of joint and several liability. And whereas the Premier of Ontario committed to a review of the issue in 2018 with the view of helping helping municipal governments manage their risks and costs. And whereas the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, on behalf of municipal governments, has provided recommendations through their October 2019 towards reasonable balance submission to align municipal liability with the proportionate responsibility for incidents and capping awards. And whereas the Township of Springwater submitted comments to the provincial government, the province of Ontario, in response to the joint and several liability consultation held in 2019, noting the following concerns. No requirement that the statement of claim provide proof of fault. No consequences for being wrongfully identified in a statement of claim. Lack of due diligence on behalf of the plaintiff's legal representations before submitting legal action. High cost of frivolous and vexatious suits on Springwater taxpayers. Requesting a triage system for claims, and requesting possible changes through the Law Society of Ontario. And whereas Council of the Township of Springwater passed Resolution C747C-2018 requesting that AMO advocate for changes to the Ontario Negligence Act, seeking full compensation for municipalities subject to frivolous and vexatious lawsuits, make it unethical for lawyers to name innocent parties in statements of claim before the courts. The compensation of catastrophic injuries accidentally caused by individuals to themselves not be borne by municipalities, and the province consider creating a catastrophic injury fund for those circumstances. And whereas the Township of Springwater continues to see a rise in insurance rates and continues to be named in lawsuits that are frivolous and vexatious, for example, vehicular accidents that take place in other municipalities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Township of Springwater does hereby support AMO's recommendations, and further be it resolved that the Township of Springwater does hereby call on the Attorney General of Ontario to work with municipal governments to put forward a plan of action to address the joint and several liability before the end of this government's current term, so municipalities can continue to offer higher quality services to their communities.
Thank you. Questions or discussion? Councillor Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I guess a couple of comments with respect to the motion. As it's written right now, it's going to go nowhere because term of government, it's very doubtful they're going to deal with this before the election. And secondly, it seems that council has already reached out to AMO with respect to this to advocate on our behalf. So I'm just wondering if this maybe should wait till the new government comes on board, because they won't be able to address this. I don't believe they would be able to address this before the next election date. I'm just wondering if it's a little bit premature and if maybe it should come back before council once the new government is in place and then give it to them right off the bat. That's my only comment here.
Theo Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Cabral. So I guess a couple of things, Councillor Cabral, since this has come forward, So the motion that you see before you tonight is actually a modified version of the motion or resolution that AMO was requesting that municipalities forward to the province of Ontario to show their support. And so we obviously modified that and tweaked it a little bit more to include some of the things that Springwater has done since then. Further to that, it's my understanding, and I'm going to get the terminology wrong, my apologies, but I believe there was an announcement made, I want to say last week, or recently anyways, from the Attorney General indicating that I believe a task force may have just been created to start the discussion on this topic. So again, I guess the motion here is really to try to just support AMO and support the rest of municipalities on this particular topic. To your point, will there be anything done during this term of the government? I guess the task force will see what happens, but I'm sure this will likely come back to the next term in July or August, and we'll likely be sitting here asking the same thing. But again,
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Just a quick follow-on. May I propose just an amendment to remove that particular part of this? I don't see any problem with moving it forward. If we take that part out of it, it kind of still presents and does exactly what the intent is, especially as CAO Schmidt has indicated. And I plead ignorance on that. I was not aware that they had started that task force, but if we could remove that particular part dealing with before the end of term, I'm quite satisfied that I'd be more than happy to support it.
Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Marilyn. And whether there's a date on it or not, I think that the intent of me bringing this forward was to show support to the other municipalities and to continue moving this forward. So if that pleases Councillor Cabral, I'm happy to have a friendly amendment on that.
Okay. All right. So that will be friendly amended. Clerk Ainsworth, any other comments or questions before we vote? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Any other notices of motion? Okay, moving. Oh, Councillor Ritchie.
I have a motion I'd like to read.
Go ahead.
I'd like to put forward. Be it resolved that this council move into a closed session for a performance review with our CAO, Jeff Smith, on or before our next council meeting. So we're wanting to do it then we'd have to, well, let the clerk intervene there.
Clerk Ainsworth.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. So as it is being, the notice is being provided at this meeting, the motion would be listed on the February 16th agenda, which would mean that the motion would have effect prior to the March 2nd meeting.
Okay. And we need a seconder for that?
Mayor Allen, not at this point. It would be listed on the next agenda for consideration.
Okay. Any other notices of motion? All right, moving on to items for future consideration. Item 10, are there any items for future consideration? Then moving on to bylaws, item 11. Can I have a mover and seconder for the bylaws, please? Councillor Cabral, Deputy Mayor Coughlin, that the bylaw listed herein be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk, 2022-008, appointing municipal law enforcement officer, and 2022-009 temporary borrowing bylaw for 2022. All those in favor? That is carried. Confirmatory bylaw, mover and seconder, please. Councillor Ma Chapman, Councillor Moore, that bylaw 2022-010 to confirm and adopt the proceedings of council at the regular meeting held on February 2nd, 2022, listed herein, be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. All those in favor? And a motion to adjourn, please. Mover and seconder. Councillor Moore, Councillor Ma Chapman. At the regular meeting, the Township of Springwater does now adjourn at 7:24 p.m. to meet again at a regular meeting on February 16, 2022 at 6:30 PM. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you and good night.
Happy Groundhog Day.